video chat is ready to begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the CISO Series video chat. What do you think of that light show, huh? Oh, it gets better, everybody. It gets better. My name is David Spark. The two gentlemen you see here are Elliot Lewis, who's the CEO of Keyavi Data, and also David Tyburski, who's the CISO of Wynn Resorts. I'm going to quickly share my screen for just a second, just to go through all the mechanics today for you, to explain what's going to be happening today. So today's topic is, hold on. That's not today's topic. Why did I go with it? Sorry, I am unfortunately on next week's here. I'm going to get to that in a second. I should have started at the beginning. Today's topic is hacking data protection and visibility. That is today's topic, hacking data protection and visibility. The two people that I just mentioned, David Tyburski, CISO for Wynn Resorts, and Elliot Lewis, CEO of Keyavi Data, they will be joining us also. Our sponsor is Keyavi Data. Thank you so much, Keyavi Data, for making this happen. Let me tell you, there are 5 different ways you can participate. Number 1, the chat room. You figured that all out, I think. 2, submit bad ideas. Those have come in. You're going to be voting for your favorite, too. I'll mention that in a second. Join us on video at any time. Just type, bring me on, ideally all in capitalizations, and we will try to bring as many of you on to ask a question or make a comment. Ask questions, ask as many as you want, and then vote for your favorite question as well. Here is the schedule. We're breaking it down. We're all in different time zones, so we're just doing it by minutes. The first 20 minutes, you submit your questions. You submit your bad ideas. Remember, the topic is hacking data protection and visibility. At 20 minutes past the hour, the producer, Andrew, will make the poll live. Vote for your favorite bad idea. The most voted up bad ideas will be played in the Department of Yes, which will be 30 minutes past the hour. And for those you don't understand, the Department of Yes is the flip side of the Department of No, which cybersecurity teams are known as, where they say no to good ideas. We're doing the opposite of that. We're saying yes to bad ideas. And then we're going to add something new. The winner of last week's Best Bad Idea, which was John Procap, he is going to choose 2 of your bad ideas to be playing essentially a game of what's worse. We'll take the 2 bad ideas and our guest will play the what's worse game as well. And that's pretty self-explanatory if you don't already know what that is. And you will vote. I'm sorry, let me go back up to, you will vote for your favorite questions again from 40 minutes to 55 minutes past the hour. And then 5 minutes left. There'll be final advice from our 2 guests. And at the end of the hour, we will change the link at the bottom of the screen, and that will be our cybersecurity speed dating, which is a lot of fun. If you've never participated, it is a ton of fun. All right, now, this was idiotically, I started with this slide, which is not right. Register for next video chat, which is hacking user access. There is a link at the bottom of the screen. Just click on it anytime. It will not take you out of this video chat at all. Not at all. You'll stay in the video chat. But it'll allow you to register for their next one. We're not going to be live next week after Thanksgiving, but the week after that, we will be live. All right, I am done with all of that nonsense. I am back to the actual show. We can start the show. So I'm going to say to David Tyburski is the one in red. Elliot Lewis is the one in blue. I am the one in black with the blue behind me. I'm going to just start with you, Elliot, and ask a very open question of, how the heck are we handling data traditionally, and why is this damaging?
Oh, that's, well, let's look at how everything's been going for the last 20, 30 years when we go into how people use data. The idea that we're trying to keep data contained and data protected in place and try to control access to it is really interesting, given the fact that IT is evolving on a 6 to 9 month rate, from every device in your hand to every laptop to every data center and cloud. And yet all of that is driving data to go out more, share more, work more, and yet we're trying to contain it. So better than to try to keep it in place and put all these protections around it, we need to make data self-protecting, and that's what we're doing.
All right. And we're going to get to more to the details of that. Let me ask, David, I know that you work with Keyavi Data here. Give me an idea of what the story was your data situation? And I know be a little general here, but
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So the point is that based on like what Elliot said, if we were 20 years ago, all of our data is contained in-house. But in today's world, I mean, you've got collaborative environments from Google Drive to OneDrive to everything and his brother, including this application we're talking on right now. I'm sure we could share files back and forth. Mm-hmm. So the place that data is stored, the sensitive stuff of an organization, it's all over the world now. It's everywhere and everything.
Yep.
So there's no way to just get at it from one place and say, oh, I've locked it down to this little spot and nobody can touch it except the people I want, because somebody's sharing it online, or they've started up a Zoom meeting and they're collaborating with somebody in, Eastern Europe, and they're taking copies of the data and snapping pictures off their cell phone and stuff like that. So the idea was we were looking at ways to build collaborative worlds and protect the data at the same time. And that's where Keyavi came in. So we can control who has it, when they have it, and we maintain control of that regardless of where it goes.
And so, look, I got to imagine, like, when you lost data, which I got to assume there are plenty of times you knew you did it and plenty of times you didn't know you did it, right, David?
I would agree. I can either confirm or deny that, David.
No, but I understand. But this is kind of a common thing. Like, and it goes back to the classic asset management thing. Is I can't protect what I don't know I have, kind of thing. I mean, everyone kind of repeats this over and over again. But there are so many departments that need to know about, I guess, the validity of data. It's not just cybersecurity, but you got legal, you got finance. I mean, there's so many, essentially the whole company relies on this. So you've got an issue that is corporate wide here. Yes?
Absolutely. And not just that, new data privacy laws that are coming into place. So now that it's sensitive data and it's related to an individual, if you expose it, there are actual privacy concerns and there are legal ramifications from that, and fines. You've got GDPR, which is exorbitant fines for European community, the California Consumer Privacy Act. All of that's coming into play as well. So data in and of itself is becoming the target of not just the bad guys trying to steal it, but what we have to live with to protect it. It's not the system, it's not what it's producing it's the actual data itself and who it relates to.
By the way, I'm getting the idea that people want to break last week's record. By the way, we hit a record of 65 bad ideas last week. And I don't know how many, 40 have already come in the first 8 minutes. This is insane how many.
I think it may be the topic we're talking about is generating a lot.
Andrew can't copy and paste that faster, can you, Andrew? We're going to find out. So let me let's go to actually the first question. We got a question that just came in right in. This is from Rick Woodward. This is for you, Elliot.
Sure.
And this seems obvious, but it also seems limited in this. How can any data protection / DLP solution prevent a leak via reformatting the data when it's being accessed, such as taking a screenshot of a schematic?
Well, there you go. When you take a look at all the ways that data is being shared, controlled, operated, and played against, the idea of trying to, let's take a look at the three words: data leakage protection. Mm-hmm. As David was just describing, data has changed its nature now in the last several iterations of IT. Data is designed to leak. It's designed to go wherever you need it to go to do business. So if you keep it in place, it's not working for you and working in any way. So one of the ways you can do this is say, first of all, let's just put the controversial statement right on the table. DLP is not a functioning solution and hasn't been for a long time. It requires all the classification to be working, all of that classification to be right, all of that classification to be up to date based on the content of ever-changing content in every piece of data you have. And then you have to put in the right gates and controls and those stretch points that say, here's where I'm going to block data from leaking, which hasn't made sense in years since mobile devices came out powerful enough to pull it up on any cell phone. How is that possible to constantly figure out how to do data leakage control? Unless, and this is what we've done here, and I'm gonna make a point here, unless you tell the data itself, you know how to classify yourself, you know what's in your payload and content, and you know where you're allowed to be and not allowed to be, and you can control that in perpetuity. And if your owner decides later on, once you're out in the wild, that this is what data classification means now, before it meant one thing, now it means another, you can update that and your data and its policies no matter where it went, no matter how many copies are made. You put that into data itself, and then the transport and your network and your systems and your applications, now they're able to just do what they have to do because data knows how to protect itself in these instances. It's doing its own data leakage protection, live on the fly, no matter where it goes. In perpetuity, now we've solved the problem of trying to do data leakage and allowing data to leak and go and still following your commands. That was the paradigm shift we're talking about here.
All right. I see, by the way, Rick Woodward asked to come on. Andrew, bring on Rick Woodward. David, let me ask you a question. You've started to use Elliot's product. Have you actually done, seen some data lock? I mean, go out, or I'm sure you've tested it. What was a scenario you've played with it in terms of, trying to control it?
So
hold your thought, Rick. Okay, Let's just get David's answer.
Oh, okay. So one of the things we were looking at was we shared data around the world, sometimes with government agencies. And 90% of the time, that's all well and good. But you know as well as I do, sometimes the people they shift jobs. The one other thing Elliot didn't touch on was the identity portion of that, of being able to identify who's accessing your data. And so you get somebody who's not necessarily government, but they're working for an agency that you're working with, and then all of a sudden they end up as a competitor to you, or they've gone into a business. Well, they still have access to that data if you've collaborated in a lot of ways. So this way we can go in and revoke that access and go, no, they don't get to see that anymore, because now
you have done that already?
We've done that, yes.
And give me kind of a before and after. Before we had the Keyavi data solution, this is how we handled that problem. How'd you deal with it?
Well, I mean, before you somewhat couldn't handle it because you depended on them to destroy the data, the legal marks that are on documentation. You assumed that they weren't going to go in. Now we have proof. Now we have a way to say, okay. So it's not a trust scenario in a sense anymore. It's more of a paranoid scenario of saying, now I can prove that you can't get there.
By the way, I'm a person who told an employer that, yes, I didn't take the data, and I did take the data. So, Rick Woodward.
That's shocking. That's shocking. I don't know anybody that does that.
Rick Woodward, I'm sorry to make you wait. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of follow up on my question. So
sure.
There's data and there's data. If you've got 4 terabytes of data, you're not going to be able to just run off with that in an unformatted way. But I work for a ship design firm, and our critical data is IP, and a lot of that are things like images, ship schematics, these sort of things. And in order for them to be useful for our employees and our vendors, they need to be accessed unencrypted. What kind of protections can you put on data like that would prevent someone from just taking a picture of their screen?
That's a great question. So let's talk about what encryption has done and what we've done with encryption. But people think of encryption today, they think of, I'm going to go ahead and encrypt this piece of data, then I have to distribute keys, and it's not going to be accessible to your application, so on and so forth. And they're thinking it as one layer, this encryption that's going on, this obfuscation of the file itself. We are using encryption for the technology, but we're doing it a little bit differently. We are taking multiple layers of encryption around your file, and we are making them intelligent to say several things. One, geofencing. The data is now intelligent enough to know where it's allowed to be at any given time per your instruction. So if you say only in our offices or only at that partner site, it's going to know I'm allowed to be here or not. And if it's in the wrong place, it's done. The second thing that once you go through that next thing is to say, who are you? And what are the policies that my that my owner has placed on you to use me as data? And then it will unlock those pieces and unobfuscate those pieces. As you go through those checks, then you're going to get to the payload. You're going to have access to it. So you have the right person, the right place, the right time embargo, the right device and laptop or motherboard or whatever you want to put as parameters. Then the data will be intelligent enough to open up in its native application. And while all of that happened, that data is not trying to unencrypt itself. It's opening up because all of that intelligence happened. You can open it up in read-only. You can open it up in collaborative, or you can just give full access to the data at that point.
Right.
kind of add on to that, because we do a lot of that as well from intellectual property of architectural diagrams. I mean, the phone on the back of your camera, which is one of the things I think you're asking about a lot, is one of the most difficult things to protect against, especially in that, because you snap a picture and now it's outside of the data stream that you protected. But one of the most key critical things, I think, is understanding that you've now limited who can see it and where. So instead of somebody taking that and accessing it via VPN from their house and opening it up at home where they have plenty of time to pull up their camera, make sure they take good shots, to do all that, you've limited that to now be in the office where there are people walking around and they're under surveillance. So you've limited the opportunity. That's one of the biggest things that it does. It doesn't remove the need to handle, picture protection and those kinds of things outside of that. But it does give you the ability, like I said, to limit down the opportunities people have to do that kind of damage.
Yeah.
And I also want to add one more comment in here too. We have self-protecting data, but it's also intelligent. That's what we've done here. So if you tell your data, I only want to open up on a device that has pixel obfuscation drivers on it, so that anybody trying to take a picture of me is going to get blurred. You can tell the data to look for certain things. You can tell the data to check to see if there's a rogue VPN. You can tell the data to check to make sure there's antivirus software on here, so you can be satisfied that the system it's opening up on is being protected. We are able to add many different kinds of policy sets and checks. Now, do we make obfuscation drivers and screens? No, we do not. Keyavi data is not in the monitor business. But the idea is, if these are concerns of yours and you're thinking about all those different pieces, just keep in mind that the data can literally check for whatever you're looking for to satisfy your concerns under the conditions you're allowing it to open up on. And that's the key, one of the key advancements here that we've done.
Hey, I want to. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead, and then I want to ask a question of Elliot. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to thank him for the answer. I've heard you on a lot of these different podcasts and shows, and I've always kind of wondered how that worked. So, thank you.
All right,
absolutely.
Awesome. All right, I want to mention something that Eli Migdal just brought up. That is Microsoft, and Microsoft has a solution in this area as well. They have a Azure Information Protection (AIP), which is now MIP. So I want to know from you, Elliot, what you think of, obviously that's a competitor to you. What you think of that solution? They've obviously been in the market longer than you have. And then David, I mean, did you also look at Microsoft's solution as well? So first you, Elliot.
So when we look at Microsoft AIP, now MIP, I believe they rebranded, correct?
Right.
What it essentially is DLP. And that's fine. I mean, one of the things we do here is we allow data to interact with any given system because we are an API platform itself. And one of the things you can say is, if this data is tagged and it's able to be tagged by Microsoft with their tagging, and they have control points on their platform and their network, there's no reason why the data itself can't also consume that same tagging and be able to interact on itself with its own controls and complement and augment AIP. We are not exactly a competitor, we're an augmentation. Okay. As an example, when you look at another Microsoft key feature, Microsoft DRM, which allows it to do digital rights control when it's in Microsoft Office and only open up, cut and paste and copy and such when you're in a Microsoft app. If you take a Word file and it has Microsoft DRM and you have used Keyavi intelligence on this, you have the ability to actually put Keyavi intelligence on it. Now it can say, where am I supposed to be, with who, how, at what time? And when you do open up, it's going to open up as a Word doc with DRM from Microsoft. We did not impact that. We just enhanced it. One of the things we did here, one of the basic operations we did with the platform, given my time at Microsoft back in the day when I was at Windows Division and working with the Security Center of Excellence at Microsoft, we made a point of making this technology aligned in the same way that Microsoft developed the Windows platform, the operations, the controls, all of that's infused into our designs and operations as we built it. We knew people would need to have ease of use, so we made sure we were compatible to that.
So, David, I want to know what you looked at some other companies as well, what you liked, disliked about others as well. And then I just want to remind everybody, the poll is actually live. Andrew got it up, and we broke our record. We're well over 70 bad ideas now.
Awesome. That's great.
So it'll be easy to read through these all. So try to go through the poll and find some bad ideas to vote on.
Now the pressure's on.
And then I want to remind John Procap, our winner from last week, you're going to pick 2 of the bad ideas. Ideally ones that are not voted the highest, because those I'm going to be doing for the Department of Yes. But pick 2 bad ideas to be for what's worse. And then let me also remind everybody, click the link at the bottom to register for our next video chat, which will be in 2 weeks. David Tyburski, all right, now how did you look at for solutions here?
So we looked at multiple solutions, and the thing that Elliot just said that really was the good thing is it is in a lot of ways a complementary solution. Mm-hmm. We were looking for ease of use. We were looking for some more advanced technology that gives the user community, those people who are not technically savvy, they aren't security professionals, they sometimes aren't even IT people, but gives them a nice, clean way to operate that data, and then the data takes care from there. Because the biggest problems we found is that you share data with one person who then hands it to their brother, who gives it to the guy down the street, who takes it over to your competitor, and then it ends up in the CEO's office of your competitor. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things we talked about with everything we investigated, and Elliot and I had this conversation, was I want to see that. I want to see that action occur, and I want to be able to track it every which way that it happened. And I think within a couple days, you had actually a map that can show it. If I want to look at it literally on a map of where it goes, and I can see who opened it, when, and how.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the key features we wanted to do. When you look at the cybersecurity market in general, and I'm saying this is in general, half of the technology we have out there is trying to contain data, and that includes identities, storage control, access control, so on and so forth. It's all about trying to contain that data. The other half is all the forensics and threat analysis and tracking to go chase after that data that got stolen anyway, because the other half didn't work. We've all been living this nightmare for many years. The idea here is we couldn't just make data self-protecting and self-intelligent and controlling. We also had to solve the forensic problem. So anytime somebody touches your data anywhere in the world, within 3 seconds, it will report back to you to say, here's who has me, on what device, on what network, and what conditions, whether or not I opened up per your policies. Data is now telling you proactively where it is you're getting full data visibility. We had to include that in this solution.
Hey, I got a couple of good questions that come in. I'm going to read actually 2 of them because they're almost identical here. One from Jason Connors says, while intelligent encryption sounds great, how do we make it so easy that we empower the end users to add these protections without significant impact to existing workflow?
Great
and then we had the same essential question from Thomas Torgerson, like the concept being discussed, but seems the volume of data being shared today would be overwhelming to wrap this kind of control around. And interested to talk about that. Yeah. Can you elaborate on how this tool is operationalized so as not to create friction for the business user? So basically, it's just saying, how does this not become an albatross to manage? I guess it's really
one of the key features that we have in here, and this was done by inception, was ease of use. It had to be as transparent as the company wanted to be for its users. If they want their users to be able to do individualized capabilities and controls, that's possible. We also made sure that it can be completely seamless through Active Directory, GPO, LDAP policies, anything you needed to, so it's completely transparent to the user. We also have another feature that we've developed with David at the Wynn. He was instrumental in getting this one done, that we're calling Folder Watch, where you can take any storage site. I don't care if it's on USB stick, on your laptop, in a cloud, any storage site you want, and you can lay down the parameters of any file dropped in here will adopt these parameters for intelligence. And then it instantly happens, and then it can go on from there. And that's one of the key pieces you put together in your implementation, right, David?
Yep. That's the one I was going to bring up, actually, because in our world, that was the thing that made that seamless ease of use very, very practical. Because a user's developing content, they're doing things, and they're dropping it into whatever storage medium they need to use to put that data onto an electronic means. And Folder Watch allows that to monitor for that. And it sees the file come in, picks it up, pushes all the encryption parameters that we've predefined for it, and then the data protects itself. The user didn't do anything but save the file into a directory. And all of a sudden, it's now protected the way we want it to be protected.
And let's also talk about a few other things. When we built the platform, we also designed the agents and the agentless systems for Windows, iOS, Android, soon to be Mac as well. We're just getting that UX done. We built it completely into Office. The idea here is if you just want to write an email and you say David and David are on two lines, and you add in a file and you write out your email, and this can be completely seamless to the user. That can be a completely intelligent email, and all the attachments that were attached to it adopt those processes as well. So if someone takes an attachment off that email, it already is intelligently protected that way. And all you had to do was write an email. We have this plugged into Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We wanted to make it so that CISOs and CIOs can simply say, this is all seamless. You're working in Office. You're working in your applications. You're working in your folders. You don't even need to know what's happening. So we made sure that was a key feature here.
And I'll just say to others, I actually have seen a demo of this product, and it is pretty darn simple to operate. So I was quite impressed with that. Let's go to, I'm going to go to one quick question because we want to get to the Department of Yes in just a few minutes. And we also have the what's worse scenario has already been sent in as well. Okay, here's a good question. Comes from Lewis. This is for you, Elliot. Does the technology Keyavi is working on handle both object storage and block storage, example databases?
Oh, great question. So right now we are fully functional on unstructured data, and in Q1, Q2, we're coming out with structured as well. We are able to do both. So stand by and keep a watch on it because unstructured data is already on the roadmap for early release in Q1, Q2.
Excellent. All right. So just a couple of quick reminders. Everyone click the link at the bottom to register for next week's video chat. Stick around for the end because we are going to be doing our meetup, which is a ton of fun. If you've never done that, Gianna, you are going to be there, whether you like it or not. She's been hesitant a few times. And we are going to start in just a couple of minutes. Let me ask one more question. Oh, by the way, if you haven't voted in 3 minutes, we're doing Department of Yes. So please jump in. Here's an interesting one for both of you. We'll start with you, David Tyburski, and I'm assuming you do threat modeling of some sort, yes?
What's that? Oh, yes, we do.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
So when do you think threat modeling for data will be equivalent to application threat modeling? And this comes from John Prokop. He assumes responsible, mature AppSec in later half of question.
So I think honestly, I think it's beginning to develop. I mean, as people become more aware, as more collaboration comes out, and as you see issues develop because of it, I think your security professionals are beginning to adopt those threat modeling tactics into data awareness, into data management. I unfortunately, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but security people tend to be a little more reactive than we like them to be sometimes, as opposed to thinking forward. So I think the more that happens, the more that people become aware of it because of the pain caused by doing it the wrong way, you'll get that threat modeling to come into play much quicker because they'll want to avoid those problems in the future. It'll be a reactive response, but I really foresee that probably in the next couple of years being more mainstream than it is today.
All right. I think, we just got a phone call. Just came in. Hold on, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
Oh, yes. We have got our wonderful bad ideas, which, by the way, just kudos to everybody who submitted them. They came in fast and furious. We are, Andrew, do me a favor. Tell me how many we've got, because a lot came in after the poll went up, but I know that we're well over 70. We have totally shattered our record, which I thought was extraordinary last week. So this seems like a pretty obvious one, and it's going to be akin to what we're going to come up, but it got 10 votes, so I have to ask it. I'm going to start with you, Elliot. David, You're going to need an answer as well. And by the way, I'm judge and jury on this. Classify all data. So that you are playing the Department of Yes. You have to agree to these ideas, not be facetious. Explain why you want to do it.
Okay.
Classify all data as public so you don't need to worry about data protection, essentially rendering your product obsolete here, Elliot. Why do you actually want to deploy this idea?
No, I think that's an excellent idea, actually, because if you actually initially say all data is public by default when people are working on it, you can't misclassify data as private or secret or from the get-go. But I'm going to do a plug here real quick because our technology actually allows the data itself to reclassify itself on the fly based on who puts what into that file on the fly. You just solved the problem, so you should definitely tag everything as public from initial.
So you could be using your product, and if you want to make everything public, you could, with one fell swoop, make everything public.
The idea here is you can send on the back end all your schemas and all of your regex to say, I want to check for PCI, HIPAA data, I want to do GDPR, anything you like, and that plugs into the data's intelligence. So if you tag it public by default from the inception, as the data goes through its life cycle, it will reclassify on the fly. So I think this is a fabulous idea for initial.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about regulatory issues because everything's public, right?
Well, and
I like this. I like
There
this
you
idea.
go.
David Tyburski, why do you want to classify all data as public?
Well, I think there's a secondary side to it, but I think it's a great idea. I think you have to train everybody to forget any sensitive data, never to write it down. And basically never process it at all. So if we get rid of all the sensitive data in the world, then everything is public and it really doesn't matter. Plus,
That's
that
nice.
open communication platform should really help to create a better collaborative environment for the user community. So everybody will share everything, which is a phenomenal idea because then there are no secrets and everything open and exposed in the world, and everybody has the same disadvantage as everybody else. So I'm with it. Let's do it.
I'm ready. Let's
2 winner answers. I like it. All right.
I'm going to go
We
take
got
4 hours now. We should go do that. That sounds good. Yeah.
All right, here's another good one. And by the way, feel free to pipe up. I don't know who's put that last one in. There were a few that were similar to that one as well. But here's another question for the Department of Yes, and why do you want to deploy this? Hide all data, and we'll start with you, David Tyburski. Hide all data via steganography on pictures of puppies. So we're some kind of hidden way we're going to put the data on pictures of puppies. Why is this a great idea, David Tyburski?
Well, I think it's phenomenal because, one, you get to see puppies all the time. And who doesn't like to see puppies? I think every office should come with a puppy just for those days of stress, you just go into a little room and there's a puppy there. You play for 5 minutes and the stress goes away. So adding that into the picture scenario, I'm right there with it. I mean, and the fact that all the data is encapsulated inside the picture itself, basically embedded into the pixelization. I think some larger documents, maybe some architectural stuff, and maybe the data that we were discussing earlier for shipbuilding, the pictures are going to get pretty large. So that's actually
that means more puppies.
It means more puppies, but it also means that technology has to increase. So there's an economics there to, ensure that the businesses can process that volume of data and keep. So I think, it's a workable plan. I think it would help.
Bravo! Real life Paw Patrol, Chad Hudson suggests. Elliot, you're calling this. Why are we doing this?
Well, first of all, I have a couple of things I want to say. We can solve that storage size problem because you can do a Shih Tzu puppy versus doing a Mastiff puppy. So when you have a larger file size, we can sort based on that. For those things where you have bad data or malware data, we can use cats. So I like kittens. That's a good way to go if you're a cat or a dog person. But I think there was a better one I saw on the list where people were saying we should use steganography, but it should be a picture of David Sparks' tattooed face as the
that comes. You haven't been on some past video chats, but tattoos of my face has come up a few times. I'm highly recommending against it, by the way. But I like your answer, Elliot. It was very good. All right. By the way, I want to let everyone know, I just heard from Andrew, 79 bad ideas. Holy crap. Yes. Shattered records. Kudos to everyone.
People have struggles.
All right. Well, here, the light show's going back again because we're going to roll in from our Department of Yes game. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot to load up the What's Worse music. My fault. My apologies for that. Or maybe I do have it. Hold on. Do I have the What's Worse music? I may have it here. Oh, I do. Hold on.
It's time to play What's Worse.
All right. I thought I had completely not loaded it, but now I do have the What's Worse music in there.
Oh, it's loaded. Yeah.
Yeah, so here we go. John Procap, our winner for last week from the Best Bad Idea, which, by the way, was spectacular. I'm going to repeat it again. The Best Bad Idea, the topic was hacking multi-factor authentication, to which John said 2 factors, username and password. Way to go. That was good. As I mentioned, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. Dustin Sachs and Dutch Schwartz were literally doing dueling banjos of bad ideas last week, which I saw them tons here as well. But man, they were hammering each other last week. And by the way, not seeing it, John Procap, essentially, he dribbles around the outside, shoots a layup. They didn't even see it.
I just saw one from somebody saying that the best way to do this to protect your data is let Dutch protect it. I saw that. It was on the list. So there you go. Way to go, Dutch.
At least he'll have a user ID. And
there you go.
That's
all right.
I'm just
so
saying.
I want to. So he picked. So John picked 2 of the bad ideas, which are interesting. So we're going to play the What's Worse scenario, and the way the game's played. Elliot, you definitely know how this played. But
yeah.
What am I saying? I played this with you too, David, I believe. Oh, no, we didn't play it on our show. But essentially, 2 scenarios. They're both horrible, but it's a risk management exercise. You have to determine which of these 2 bad ideas is actually the worst of the 2. So here it is, 2 bad ideas, and I'll have you go first, Elliot.
Okay.
What's worse? Classify everything as restricted, so it's all super protected, or complete opposite, like what we said before, open source all your data. Anyone can read and write everything, and just set alerts for when data gets changed. So, which one is worse?
Okay. I think the first one is worse, where you classify all your data secret. Because at that point, you're just going to have to unwind all that and deal with all that. Better to just do it open source and let the data be intelligent about itself and get back to your work.
All right. David Tyburski, which one's worse? Do you agree or disagree? Again, it's a risk management. They both stink, but which is causing more damage?
I think the second one is worse. So I'm going to disagree with Elliot, and simply from a cost overhead perspective, what it would take for a business to operate all of its data is restricted. Besides the fact that you could never share
the second one is open source all day. The first one is
right, but that's what I said. The issue
Okay.
with the first one, the overhead there in and of itself would be just absolutely prohibited. At least if it's all out in the public, you don't have to worry about people really stealing it because it's just out there. You're just giving it away, which is generally the purpose of open source anyway. So, your business is going to be dependent on donations, but, we'll work with that as a different problem.
All right. You know what? Good answers, both of you. Excellent. Great job. All right. We just hammered through those 2 games as well. And kudos to everyone. By the way, very impressed with everyone's success on that. And if I have time, there was another thing that John Procap sent in, and we possibly get to that. Let's get to the questions. Please vote questions. We have 4 questions in the queue right now. I'll start this one with you, David Tyburski. What is the biggest challenge? Encryption and gaining full lifecycle visibility, or consuming the opening, the reading, the encrypting of data in a seamless way for the users? Like, what's tougher here?
I think the latter is tougher. Because you're dealing with non-technical people, you've got to make seamless users. The seamless user interface is just, they find creative ways to break things without the complexity of encryption, right? How many times do you get the calls, that my monitor's not working? And the answer is, did you actually power it up? So yeah, I think making that community be able to operate seamlessly is a much more difficult problem. besides the fact, I mean, I don't mean to sound that the wrong way. They're very talented people in a lot of stuff. They're just not technologically talented in a lot of cases. And that building that bridge between the two, I think, takes a lot of time and energy, like I said, because people are just creative in the way that they want to break things. So.
Oh, all right. So same question to you. Which one's tougher of these two scenarios?
I think it's pretty obvious that, from all the research we've had to do and all the design we've had to do, it's always of the top three. This has to be seamless to users, right? Because if they can't make this work, if you make it too complex, they're going to find a way to work around it. And now you're just having a control you're depending on, and people simply aren't using it. And I have to agree with David on the whole thing with your monitor plugged in, because the first thing I learned day one in computer repair 101 in my first year of college, the teacher said, the first thing you do is you kick the computer hard. This does one of two things. Either it fixes it and you get paid, or if it wasn't broken before, it sure as heck is now and you get paid. So I think it's a really good philosophy to use that way.
Good point.
Wise advice.
Wise man.
Ian Pointer also has a good question, and this is one's good for both of you. And this, I want to know how you've actually done this. He asked, do you think data classification, and by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, Eli Migdal was the last question, but Ian Pointer for this one, do you think data classification and the associated policies can actually work in the real world? So I'm assuming that's what you're doing, David Tyburski. Because, and by the way, this is a good question, because we hear this all the time. Like it says, well, you can just go and change and set your policies and change it, like on Facebook. If you want to change your privacy settings, you can do. But we know no one ever does this. So my question is, to what level of management does this require? And are you doing it, and how much overhead has it created for you?
A lot. So there's a lot of education that goes with it. But the two things I would say, somewhat goes back to what we were just talking about, is people always will take the path of least resistance, right? So if you make doing data classification, you make protecting your data, you make those things simple and make that the easiest thing they can do, they will always take it whether you've trained them to do it or not. If you make it difficult and complex, they're going to find ways around it and find ways not to do it. So data classification in the real world, one of the things we learned early on by implementing was keep it simple. The KISS principle works. Limit the volume that the volume of classifications you have, make it small, make it easy, and then give them the answer, right? So not everything is public. We know that. Not everything is restricted. We know that. So there's an internal use only in the middle. And you look at your user community and go, 95% of your material that you ever create without ever seeing it right now is going to fall right into this category of internal use only. You don't even almost need to think about it. That's the one you always need to pick. It's not public unless you work for public relations. It's not restricted unless you're in legal. You're going to pick the middle one. Pick the middle one. And you say it over and over and over again until they go, oh, I'm going to pick the middle one.
By the way, Ian has a follow-up question. He asks, how many levels of classification do you have at the Wynn?
4.
Do you know? 4? Oh, so it's not that complex.
No, it's on.
And I'm assuming you purposely did it that way. Like with each one you create, you're creating more complexity for yourself.
And more complexity for the user to understand what to pick. Like, what is the difference between public and internal use? What's the difference between internal and restricted? What does it mean for them? Because if they pick the wrong thing, then all of a sudden they can't give it out to somebody else, or they can't push it to where they need it to do the business and make the money. So yeah, keeping it simple is the first best idea.
Oh, so a follow up on that. So I'm assuming when you were creating your product, you worked with companies on this in terms of what are sort of the ideal number of levels to create and what to name them and things like that. What did you learn, Elliot?
Oh, well, first of all, again, the mantra here, keep it simple, is absolutely true. But here's another thing, too. One of the things that's also being alluded to here is that if the users don't understand them, they're going to go to the least path of resistance. And just, if you give them the ability to tag at the lowest level, that way they can just get their work done. They're just trying to get their work done. I have found that most users aren't trying to be malicious. Some are, but most aren't. And they're just trying to get their work done. And when there's restrictive control in place, they're going to go to the least path to get their work done. So when you have some very basic rules that they can learn, and then you can educate them as they're using data as to, hey, by the way, I know you meant this. This means it's classified. Is that what you want to put in this data? The opportunities there are incredibly rare because it's always after the fact. It's always before the fact. It's not when they're working on their data. You're not educating them. So this is a no-win scenario. Security controls without education of users to make their behavior better is always a losing proposition. One of the things we did with the product was if people want to make data, and then it's somebody like David wants to put classification controls around data, the technology, the data itself will say, by the way, the user, you just put in David Tyburski's name into this piece of data. That made it classified, right? So I'm going to put the classification policies on it automatically for you and understand that. If you don't want that to happen, then you can take his name out of there. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, how much do you want the user having to deal with this? And that's a corporate decision. That's a culture decision. And at the end of the day, if you really want to just let your users work and not get them all riled up over not being able to work, make this as seamless and simple as possible. So we put that function into the data itself. And I want to put one other thing here too. The other real serious problem with classification in the history of technology so far has been, let's say we put a meta tag on something saying it's public. Nothing was wrong with this data. It was no big deal. It can go out there to the world. And then while it's out there, someone opens it up and puts David's name into the data. But it's still now tagged as public, even though they just made it confidential to the Wynn. There was no reclassification of data on the fly in the wild technology. So now you have a piece of data that is wildly secret, yet it's still tagged as public. We had to solve that problem too. So that's part of the intelligence we put into the product.
And as a follow-up, you're talking about training the users. Dustin Sachs has a good question here. Excuse me, I'll go to you, David Tyburski, because I want to know how you actually educated people on this. What are the most effective security awareness techniques to help train users not to inadvertently leak data? And so maybe you could talk about like before you had Keyavi data and now that you have Keyavi data too.
So education is the critical importance, right? I mean, we try not
want to know specifics.
We actually try not to use the words of training. We use the word education because training implies that you're teaching them to click this, do that, or do the specific thing. Education, you're trying to evolve them so that they understand. And the education program really does revolve around ensuring that they understand what are the examples, what constitutes those data classification levels. And then we follow the trust but verify solution. So the automation on the back end to look at for keys, to look for social security numbers or credit card numbers or confidential data, player data, governmental data, whatever it is, we were looking in the back to try to validate, did they do it right? And communication is about a feedback loop. You have no communication if you don't do feedback. Otherwise, it's broadcast. So we make sure we have a feedback loop. If we consistently find things that aren't being done, then we go have a conversation. We sit down and take some personal time to say, okay, let's talk to the department. Let's understand. Maybe we misunderstood. Maybe that data is not supposed to be classified. It's supposed to be allowed, and we're judging it wrong. Yep. And so by doing that, we get a lot of feedback to ourselves to say, hey, shouldn't we think about this data as opposed to that data as well? Things that we never even might consider that could be considered private or could be considered, sensitive to the regulatory environments that we work in.
All right, I have I'm gonna shift gears here for a second. I have another what's worse scenario. This one just written by John Prokop, again, our winner last year of Best Bad Idea. By the way, I'm going to say right now, whoever wins this week's Best Bad Idea, again, I'm sure more came in. We had 79 last, and I'm sure there's over 80 now. huge kudos. The higher the numbers go up when you win. And just to remind people,
This is something.
I don't look at the names of the people when they submit it. When I get the list of the bad ideas, I hide all the names. So I'm only looking at the bad ideas because I don't want to be swayed by who submitted them. So it is I guess a true blind vision of it. But now I want to go to a what's worse scenario. Another one. This is a little more complicated. I'm going to throw with you first, Elliot.
Okay.
Having perfect data collection rules, just perfect. The way you're collecting the data is on target, only holding what you need, but you have lackluster controls on the data collected. So this is option one, all one option. Or the second option is you collect all sorts of extraneous data, social security numbers and medical data for sweepstakes for entries, but you have best-in-class controls on that data. So which is worse of these two sort of bizarre scenarios here? Are you grokking the two of them here?
I am, and I think the second one is the worst issue because you can say you have the best controls and everything else, but you are now opening yourself up to possession, custody, and control issues in a legal situation. You possess that bad data, and whether or not you think you have the best controls, if someone comes in through a supply chain hack or someone comes in through a compromised credential hack, you possess the data, you collect it, you owned it. I don't care how good your controls are. And don't ever think your controls are perfect because they're not. That's just a matter of time of evolution. So I think that second one is just a recipe for disaster.
By the way, Ian Pointer wants to know, do we get a prize if the number of bad ideas hits 100? I haven't even contemplated that, but I'll have to figure it out.
We do have a prize. David will tattoo his face for your encryption. Yes.
That David.
David Tyburski. No, David Tyburski will do it.
That David.
By the way, just so you know, David Tyburski, the order that we're seeing on the screen is like different on everybody's screen.
Whatever,
so wherever you point,
from me.
you essentially have to do this. So let me read this again. Having perfect data collection rules, only hold what you need, but lackluster controls on the data collected, or you collect all sorts of extraneous data like social security numbers and medical data for sweepstake entries, but you just have best-in-class controls on that data. Which one is worse?
I agree with Elliot. The second one is worse. And it's a simple rule. If you don't have it, somebody can't steal it. I mean, it's simple. If it's gone, you can't. No, it's gone, right? So the better idea is to just only collect what you need. And to your point, Elliot, it doesn't even require a hack from somebody on the outside or supply chain.
Yeah, it's
right. The dedicated hacker is going to come to work for you. You're going to hire them and give them access.
That's the exact point. You can put up the strongest fortress you want. If people want to get in, they're going to find a way. It's called organized attack. If you want to be sure, make sure the data knows where it's allowed to be or not allowed to be. So if anybody ever takes it out of the walls, it'll say, sorry, not supposed to be here. And that solves the problem. That's the issue. Yeah.
All right. So let me also throw last question. I think this is really for you, David Tyburski. But although, Elliot, since you live in Las Vegas, you probably have an answer to this as well.
Okay.
This first one comes from Gianna, and she asks, is there anything unique you have to deal with in cybersecurity working at a casino company that you wouldn't have to deal with, say, at a financial or healthcare or other organization? And then Dustin Sachs asks something similar. So I'm throwing in both questions. How have other casino data breaches changed your approach to data classification? So,
well,
grok
to
both
answer
of
the
those.
first one, answer the first one, yes, there are some uniquenesses.
For example,
well, the fact is we live in Las Vegas. Okay, so whenever you come and live in this city, you have to suspend a little bit of your own morality and stop judging people for what they do.
Okay.
So in a lot of organizations, I'm going to take a simplistic example, which isn't 100% security, but it is used as such. Everybody will understand. Is a simple web filtering problem. So you want everybody not to go to porn sites. You don't want anybody to go to adult materials. And that's a common element in a lot of organizations. We sponsor some of that. We have nightclubs. And so I have groups of people in my organization that I can't really do that to because it would destroy the business.
Right.
So yeah, there are some uniquenesses, and that's just a simple example. But yeah, there are definitely examples like that where in the gaming industry, in the hospitality gaming, especially in the city of Las Vegas, you kind of look at some things and you go, well, if I was somewhere else, I could probably stop that, but now I got to find a way to operate with it. So,
and then just quickly to Dustin's thing, because I want to wrap us up. We got 5 minutes. Before we change this link at the bottom, quick, everybody right now with the next minute, if you have not clicked the link at the bottom to register for our next video chat, please do that. That's going to change in just 1 minute. So please click on that because it's going to change to our icebreaker, which we're going to start in 5 minutes. Okay. So the follow-up, Dustin, is have any other breaches changed the way you've done data classification?
Absolutely. So the good thing is, and I was actually one of the founding members of a group in the Las Vegas Valley. It's not just about the hospitality, but it's about every security professional and leadership security professional in the Valley. We come together once a quarter. We sit and talk. So the guys who have been through those breaches, I've been across the table, been able to ask the questions. So we learn from each other. We share information. Bad guys do it all the time, and the good guys tend to hold their environment, and they think it's some special sauce, and we've tried to break out of that mold. So yeah, we learn. If something goes wrong, we'll talk about it. If this goes wrong somewhere else, I want them to talk about it to me, and we're all there to help. It's not a judgment of, oh my God, I can't believe you were that stupid. It's how can we help you? Can we step up? Can we even offer sometimes manpower to assist? We've done that before. So yeah, we learn.
All right, very quickly, Elliot, because I want to do our wrap up because we only have 4 minutes left.
Real simple cap on what David's been saying here about Las Vegas, but let me make this real clear. I don't see hospitals and banks and other venues hosting Black Hat and DEF CON every year. And if you want to see the real stress test of how to do security in the Wild West, go ahead and hold those conferences every year per year where the worst and the best come in to hack. And these guys like David, they have to control it all. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know any other venue that has to deal with that. I think
Excellent. All right. So just a couple of quick messages. Andrew, if you have not changed the link at the bottom, please change the link at the bottom for our yes, you just did right now for our impromptu meetup, the 101, the Icebreaker. All right. I want to thank Keyavi Data. That is Elliot's company for sponsoring this video chat. And by the way, if you want to hear more about this, this week's Defense in Depth episode, the one we dropped yesterday, features Elliot, and we're talking about this very topic. So please listen to that episode of Defense in Depth. And right there, stick around for our Icebreaker. It is a lot of fun. In fact, you can click on it right now. Click on it right now. And click on the link right now. And you will be taken into it. You'll just have to log in with a Google account and just put your full name in. And then once everybody is on there at 11 o'clock, we will do this. All right. 1 minute from both of you last thing. Do you want to sponsor a video chat? We have sold out for 2020 for all our video chats, but we got 2021 open. Please email me at david@cisoseries.com. That's it here. Let me close that out. All right. 1 minute from each of you. David Tyburski first. Your advice on data protection and visibility.
I'm going to reiterate what I've said through this whole thing. Keep it simple. Make it easy. Make sure the user community can understand it, and keep an open line of communication so that they give you feedback, you give them feedback. If the user community, which is the largest issue any company has, is doing the things because it's the easiest thing to do, and they're protecting your data because that's the easiest thing for them to do, you're going to have a lot less headaches trying to solve the other problems that you need to solve. Keep it simple, talk to them, make it easy.
Yep. All right, everyone, again, click the link at the bottom. I see people are starting to roll in right now. Elliot, 1 minute, wrap us up. A pitch for Keyavi Data, how people can connect with you, or basic advice.
Absolutely. First of all, if you want to hear about and see more about Keyavi Data, go to our website, keyavidata.com. And frankly, when we look at this entire problem, we went to go and solve the worst problem in tech, and that is keeping data from being stolen and making it working for this way forever for you in perpetuity, and making it fully visible. If you want your data to be intelligent, self-protecting, self-aware, and be able to protect itself so you let it go and do whatever you need to do, please take a look at our technology. We went to reverse the threat model. Stop trying to contain data. Let it protect itself. Let it be yours forever, no matter where it goes. Let it follow your commands where it goes. That's the key. And we made it very simple, easy to use, easy to integrate into any system. It's designed to do what you need it to do. And we'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. With our last 30 seconds, I'm going to tell everybody, please click that link at the bottom of the screen. Join us in the meetup, the cybersecurity meetup. It is a lot of fun, just randomly connected with other people. We're going to shut this down in just 10 seconds. I have to thank again, Elliot Lewis, CEO of Keyavi Data, David Tyburski. David, remember, if you have a problem with that link, use the one in our back channel. Don't refresh. David Tyburski, CISO of Wynn Resorts. I have to thank everybody again. You guys were awesome. I'm out of here. See you over in the chat, in the meetup.